Welcome to the training overview of the Public Facility Corporation. In this video, we'll provide an overview of the Public Facility Corporation, or PFC, its structure and operations, and how this tool can be utilized to spur the supply of affordable housing. We'll cover what the PFC is and how it's created, why it's used, how projects are approved and funded, and what these programs have accomplished for our community. We'll also explain how corporation staff, and city council work together to safeguard outcomes. Let's start with the big picture. Dallas faces a serious housing supply challenge. The Office of Housing and Community Empowerment deploys several tools and programs to build, acquire, and redevelop housing, as well as tools to assist with rehousing. A Public Facility Corporation, or a PFC, is a nonprofit entity created by the city. The City of Dallas authorizes the creation of the Dallas Public Facility Corporation through an adopted resolution approved by the Dallas City Council. However, it acts independent of the city. PFCs can be used to develop mixed-use projects, which include housing and other things like commercial space, to develop mixed-income housing for households across the income spectrum, to create and issue bonds to finance the construction of housing and other public facilities, to acquire and finance rehabilitation of existing properties, and to finance single-family development. It's important to note, while PFCs can serve several functions, historically the Dallas Public Facility Corporation has primarily focused on developing and redeveloping mixed-income multifamily housing. Projects to date have mainly been new construction. The conversation for this video will also focus on mixed-income housing development as a primary topic. Now you may be asking yourself, why this tool? The market doesn't always produce affordable housing on its own. Let's take a look at this chart. You see, it costs the same amount to build and operate affordable and market rate housing. In a market rate property, the cost to build and operate can be balanced out by adjusting rent prices. For example, if operational costs go up, rent prices can go up to keep up with operational cost. On the other hand, in affordable housing developments, revenue available to operate affordable properties are already reduced due to lower rent prices. Additionally, rents are usually capped, so there's a gap between what it costs to build the development and what the developer or operator is making to keep the development operational. Tax exemptions and other subsidies make affordable housing possible by covering that rent shortfall. Using a PFC can reduce operating costs because of tax exemptions, which helps make the project more feasible by closing this gap. The financing stack that goes into a public facility project can be complex, usually including several sources. What's important to note here is that PFC projects do not typically include other public funding sources. They are typically structured more similarly to regular market rate complexes. In Dallas, the PFC projects often serve moderate income households while creating mixed income communities. Because of this, the PFC projects are casually referred to as workforce housing. In recent years, many projects have added about 5 to 10% of units for the lower income brackets, for example, 50% of the area median income and below. This has expanded housing access while keeping projects financially viable. Affordable commitments run for a defined period, typically 75 years, and are monitored, so benefits last over time. Remember, this tool is primarily operated independently of the city. Let's see what the general manager of the Dallas Public Facility Corporation, who oversees the day-to-day, has to say.
The Dallas PFC and the Dallas HFC are separate legal entities from the city of Dallas, but they are instrumentalities of the city. And so what that means is that through a separate legal corporation, they're allowed to own and sell and build property for the purpose of providing affordable housing to the residents of Dallas. This is very important because it allows us to function at the speed of the market. These are incredibly powerful tools that the city can use to extend their ability to provide affordable housing to the residents. Dallas has been so successful with these programs, for one, because of just the general climate here for business. It's a high growth city. It's attractive to a lot of different industries. And so with that comes a lot of people who want to come and live here and work here and start their families here. It's a double-edged sword because with that high demand, you also have very high real estate prices. You know, as more people move in, the demand just goes up. And so, you know, you've seen the markets go over the last 5 or 10 years just crazy. For a normal person, their salary has not risen at the same rate that the rent has risen. PFC, it works through tax exemptions. The first step is an application to the corporation that will go before the board in a public meeting, and they will vote on whether or not to preliminarily approve it. They take very seriously the charge that they have to approve these projects. After you get that preliminary approval, there's also approval through, you know, you have to get a loan from the bank. They have to go and investigate it, do all the due diligence, do all the environmental, do all of the financial tests, because at the end of the day, you know, the bank does need to make its money back. And so if the financials on the project don't work, even with the subsidy, it's not going to be a good investment for the bank. And so they're not going to want to give their money out. You know, they're the ones who have real skin in the game in terms of dollars invested. And then after the board, say it gets approved at that level, you will take it to city council. The city council will get the option to weigh in on whether or not they really think this is good for the community as well. So there's also another level of public scrutiny that goes on there. There's public comment allowed. All of the documentation is available if requested by any residents. And so I think it's a really transparent process. It's really one that tries to be very accountable to the dollars that are being invested in it. And so even after the city council approval, if you do get lucky enough to get that, you also have to go back to the board one more time to get final approval. And PFC projects are different from HFC projects in that they are 50% at market rate. And so traditionally we call that a mixed income development. So where other affordable developments like those that the HFC does are 100% or close to 100% affordable with all the units being restricted. In the PFC program, only 50% of the units are going to be restricted to a lower rent level. That makes it possible for that market rate half of the property to just operate as a regular market rate property. And what's really nice about it is that the units aren't differentiated. You'll have all of the affordably priced units mixed in among all of the market rate units. And visually and quality-wise, you would never be able to tell which units are being rented by a lower income family. Some of our newest projects like the Hayden and Oak House at Colorado are coming online. We're very proud of these projects. They're really well placed. I think they're projects that they are benefiting from really good locations. One's in East Dallas and one is over near the Bishop Arts area. And so we're using these as sort of a catalyst, also as a preservation of folks who are going to need affordability. And as these neighborhoods continue to get uplifted and as they continue to develop and the prices continue to rise as they naturally do, we will have these points where we can maintain affordability in the neighborhoods and provide housing for those who need it. If I'm speaking directly to folks who are making this decision, I want to point out several things. And if I'm putting myself in their place, I would say, is this location in a site where I would want to live at, and why? And so I would think to myself, why does this location need housing? And there are several factors, right? Are the rents in the area going up? Are the local folks going to be priced out in the coming years? Or there's another reason. Has there been no new investment in these communities, right? There's a lot of communities in our town that have seen no new investment for decades, 20, 30 years in some places. And so there are folks there who are needing nice new housing, and the banks and others just can't finance it because there hasn't been that investment in infrastructure and investment in the community. And so can we spur more investment in the community through this housing, and can we help folks find a home base there to continue building those communities? Next, is this a sound financial investment, right? You don't want to invest millions and millions of dollars for 10 units, right? You want to get a good return on your investment, especially from the public dollars point of view. And so when we're looking at public benefit, you can weigh that against other projects, right? And say, all right, what has our standard been, and what are we trying to get at a minimum? We at the PFC, when we're looking at breaking into a high opportunity market, that is the unique advantage that we have over other affordable housing programs, because we can move at a market pace, a relatively market pace. I think it's possible to close a deal in under 3 months if we can get it in front of City Council and in front of the PFC board. And so the board is able to have the background knowledge that they need to make quick decisions. But on top of that, the PFC projects are funded through conventional loans. Like these are regular banks that are lending on these products, and they don't need the year-long waiting time to go and apply for tax credits that some other programs needed. So when we are looking at buying a property and putting it under contract, we can be competitive with the land seller, with all of the other bids. And so, you know, when you get these projects that are in higher priced areas, we can go and put a contract on the land and say we're going to close at a certain date. And instead of the land seller looking at us and telling us to go away because we're going to need a year-long contract, they will actually consider our bid. And so that gives us an advantage when trying to enact change in areas that we've seen are becoming much higher price and much more unaffordable. And so that's the unique advantage of what we're trying to do here.
As discussed, each project in the Dallas Public Facility Corporation portfolio has to go through a layered approval process, and each party, including the corporation staff, and city council, plays a unique and important role. Here's a little visual, and as you can see, corporation staff manage applications, developer communication, and project selection. They also provide quarterly and annual reports to the city on portfolio performance and financial standing of the corporation. City housing staff review projects for alignment with housing goals and prepare items for City Council. They also ensure long-term affordability compliance. City Council plays a critical role in ensuring transparency and alignment with housing priorities. City Council appoints board members for the corporation and sets policy direction. They also review and vote on projects requiring council approval. City Council also ensures projects meet program standards, consider the public benefit analysis, and engage communities as needed. Since its inception in 2020, the Dallas Public Facility Corporation portfolio has grown to include 24 properties, including 15 in lease-up and 9 that are under construction. The total portfolio is valued at over $1.1 billion, provides 3,826 units, with 1,936 of them being affordable in the city of Dallas. Today we covered what the PFC is, why we use it, how projects are approved and monitored, and what these programs have accomplished. To learn more or to get involved, visit our website or attend an upcoming public board meeting held on the fourth Tuesday of every month. Thank you for watching.